Warren Buffett owns 49 stocks worth $372 billion in his portfolio at Berkshire Hathaway. In this video, we're diving deep into the 10 biggest stocks Buffett bought himself, including companies he's still buying right now. Starting with number 10, Citigroup. Citigroup is a $3.4 billion holding that makes up 1% of Buffett's portfolio overall. So far, he hasn't sold any shares of the company, and based on his estimated purchase price, the stock is down around 0.5% from where he was buying in. Thankfully, his investment's been safeguarded a bit by Citigroup's dividend yield and some slight share buybacks. Right now, Citigroup has a 3.84% shareholder yield with a 3.44% dividend. Those have made up the majority of Buffett's gains in this investment so far. Citigroup is the $118 billion Wall Street banking giant that today trades just $2 below its 52-week high. The company's up more than 50% from its 52-week lows. Citigroup is a favorite among value investors, with 10 other super investors having positions in the company. Buffett's holding is pretty modest compared to these, and it's worth noting Michael Burry bought a 5.44% position in the most recent quarter. Based on the numbers, today a GF value says Citigroup's fair value is around $57 per share. That's around 10% below its current stock price, but because this is a range, it seems like the company's about fairly valued. Analysts want to see Citigroup trade higher as they're targeting a $64.75 price target. Warren Buffett is one of the most successful investors of all time. As of today, he's among the top 10 richest people in the world. Buffett runs Berkshire Hathaway, one of the world's largest publicly traded holding companies, with a market cap north of $862 billion. It's fitting to look at his stock portfolio as the 2024 Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting takes place on May 4th. Now, as a public investor, it would be pretty easy to look at his portfolio, right? Not so fast. In this video, you can see which stocks he picks and which stocks Berkshire Hathaway owns based on Buffett's 13F filings and his latest trades. There are actually two other investment managers at Berkshire, Ted Weschler and Todd Combs, who together manage more than $30 billion. There's also a hidden stock that Buffett's been buying, which he asked for permission not to disclose right away from the SEC. Plus, there are at least 8 stocks he owns internationally that don't show up on his Form 13F. You're in luck, as we'll cover 5 of those on our list later in the video. Now let's keep counting down Warren Buffett stocks with number 9, Moody's. Moody's is a $9.25 billion holding from Buffett that makes up 2.7% of his portfolio. Buffett owns more than 13% of Moody's shares outstanding, and he first bought into the business after it was spun off and split from Dun & Bradstreet back in 2000. His first trade in the company was in the 4th quarter of that year, and since then he's bought 10 more times and sold in 27 quarters. And he's made a gain of over 865% so far. Moody's has been a huge home run for Buffett. Overall, 14 different super investors have Moody's in their stock portfolios. This includes 3 double-digit positions from Chuck Ockrey, Valley Forge Capital Management, and Chris Hone. There are big bets on Moody's from a lot of big names. Moody's is the $68.5 billion rating agency that today trades $35 below its 52-week high. It's one of 3 rating agencies in the United States, along with S&P Ratings and Fitch, and it was one of these companies that could have gotten into a lot of trouble back during the global financial crisis. Instead, the company reached settlements with the U.S. Department of Justice for only $863 million. That was just a slap on the wrist for the business. Right now, Moody's has a small shareholder yield of 1.28%, but it has been growing its dividend payments for each of the last 14 years. So Moody's may be a decent dividend growth stock, if you can get it at the right price. Price is going to be the issue here for Moody's, as it's a very high quality, durable business that operates in an oligopoly. Moody's is well out above most of the standard methods of valuing the business. Its current price is in front of its sales and what the company would look like on a DCF analysis. Analysts still see Moody's share price going higher, and they're targeting nearly $429 as a price target. Remember, this video is not financial advice. It's not a buy or sell recommendation of any security. Use common sense and do what's right for you. Kraft Heinz is next on our list at number 8 as a $12.5 billion holding, making up 3.7% of Buffett's portfolio. Keep in mind the current values and percentages that you're seeing are only current as of his last 13F and don't include Buffett's international holdings. That's why the numbers I'm going to quote are going to be different, but they're going to be more accurate. Even though Kraft Heinz is Buffett's 8th biggest holding, it's been a disaster for him so far. He originally had separate investments in Kraft Foods and the Heinz Company, and together with 3G Capital, worked to merge these two businesses together. That has not resulted in good things for shareholders. Overall, Buffett's likely lost more than 50% of his investment in the company, publicly stating that they overpaid for Kraft. Through a recent filing, we found out that 3G Capital, Buffett's partners in the deal, recently exited their stake in Kraft Heinz. That's not great news for shareholders, but one bright spot is that Warren Buffett's successor, Greg Abel, is on the board of the Kraft Heinz Company. Kraft Heinz is the $46.5 billion foods giant that trades $3 below its 52-week high. Through their dividend payments, Buffett has been able to recoup most of his investment that he lost as their stock price went lower. Right now, Kraft Heinz pays a 4.41% dividend yield, but they slightly dilute shareholders, so their shareholder yield is lower than this. Buffett's not the only super investor with a holding in the company. There are 6 others who have positions, but Buffett is by far the biggest, and it's the largest percentage of any super investor portfolio as well. Today, a GF value comes in at $38 per share, which is about $2 above Kraft Heinz' current stock price. Occidental Petroleum is a company Buffett's been buying in 2024. It's 7th on our list, and it makes up a $16.8 billion position. That's 4.9% of Berkshire's portfolio. Buffett's been buying shares of Occidental Petroleum for the last 3 years. He bought his latest shares as recently as February 5th, 2024. This was after he provided the funding for Occidental to acquire Anadarko Petroleum back in 2019. Largely as a result of that acquisition, Occidental was able to pull through the pandemic, even as oil prices went negative. Buffett's repeatedly praised Occidental CEO Vicki Hollub and stated that he'd be doing the exact same things that she's doing right now if he were running the business. Based on ownership of warrants and common shares, Buffett has more than a 30% stake in Occidental today. Plus, he has permission to acquire up to 50% of the business. Right now, Occidental Petroleum trades $3 below its 52-week high and is a $60 billion oil business, primarily focused in the Permian Basin in West Texas. Like these other companies we've looked at, Buffett's not alone in his holdings of Occidental Petroleum, with Prem Watsa, who's been called the Canadian Warren Buffett, having nearly 25% of his portfolio in the company. Oxy today looks like it trades out ahead of its asset value, which is to be expected based on the accounting and the recent run-up in oil, especially from its pandemic lows. The company fares a lot better when we look at how it's traded compared to its past and what its projected abilities to generate free cash flows are. From today's stock prices, analysts are projecting that Occidental goes 10% higher, with a price target of just under $73 per share. Occidental's been buying back shares and they've grown their dividends. Right now, they have a pretty attractive 4.52% shareholder yield. Chevron is a $20.8 billion position, coming in at number 6 on our list, also making up 6.1% of Berkshire's portfolio. We're now looking at back-to-back oil businesses as we take a look at Chevron, which is a $307 billion giant today. It's trading just $10 below its 52-week highs. The big surprise is that Buffett's been buying and selling out of Chevron for each of the last 14 quarters straight. That's not something you typically see. In this time, he's bought on 8 separate occasions and he's sold 6 times. Lately, it's been by far his most active position. Much of this has to do with him betting on the price of oil and natural gas, and it looks like he favors Occidental over Chevron. This comes even as Chevron is a dividend aristocrat who's grown their dividends consistently for 37 years. Right now, the company has a very attractive 6.44% shareholder yield. Much of this comes from a big 4.08% dividend. Chevron looks right around fairly valued when we look at the company's projected free cash flows and how they've traded compared to past sales. Net income doesn't give the best picture for an oil company, so the Peter Lynch value doesn't mean too much here. Even though the numbers look like Chevron's fairly priced, analysts want to see the company go 18.5% higher, targeting $191 per share. In number 5, we have something special, and that's Buffett's basket bet on the Sogo Sosha, aka the Japanese trading companies. These are leading businesses in Japan that overall make up $24 billion of Buffett's portfolio, coming in at 7.1% of Berkshire's holdings. These Sogo Sosha stocks, say that 10 times fast, include Mitsubishi, Mitsui, Itochu, Sumitomo, and Marubeni. These are 5 well-diversified trading companies that are pretty similar to Berkshire Hathaway in structure. Basically, they're holding companies with major interests in the economics of Japan. Buffett pulled off wonders with this investment, selling Japanese yen-denominated bonds and using the proceeds to buy into these companies who are able to cover those bond payments with their dividends alone. Charlie Munger explained it like this: the interest rates in Japan were around 0.5% a year for 10 years, and these trading companies were really well-entrenched old companies. They had all these cheap copper mines and rubber plantations, and so you could borrow for 10 years ahead all the money and you could buy the stocks. And the stocks made 5% dividend payments. So that's a huge flow of cash with no investment, no thought, no nothing. Munger also said we could do that, nobody else could. By this, Munger meant that it was because of Berkshire Hathaway's stellar credit rating that it was the only company that could borrow money at such attractive terms. He then went on to underscore how long it took Berkshire to build up its bet, saying the only way you could get it was to be very patient and just pick away a little pieces at a time. It took forever to get $10 billion invested, but it was like having God just opening a chest and just pouring money into it. It was awfully easy money. Just recently in 2024, Berkshire was selling more Japanese yen-denominated bonds. It's likely he's probably adding more to these companies, moving up to that 9.9% ownership threshold that he promised last year in 2023. Number 4 on our list is one of Buffett's old reliables. It's an iconic American business, and it's been associated with Berkshire for more than 30 years. It's Coca-Cola, which today is a $24.5 billion position, making up 7.2% of Buffett's holdings. Coca-Cola is the world's leading non-alcoholic beverages company. Warren Buffett is nearly synonymous with the $266 billion business that now trades $3 below its 52-week highs. Buffett drinks 6 cherry Cokes a day and has his own soda fountain installed at his office. Coke's been a continuous holding for Buffett after he originally plowed 25% of the company's net worth into Coca-Cola back in the late 1980s. Since then, Coke has been one of the ultimate no-brainers. It's been a long-term buy and hold for Buffett in his portfolio. Part of this is that Coca-Cola is a dividend king. They've grown their dividends for each of the past 62 years straight. And even today, as their stock price has risen, they still pay out a 3.13% dividend yield. Plus, they buy back some shares, so they have a 3.38% shareholder yield overall. With recent increases in their stock price, today it looks like Coca-Cola is just trading $6 below their GF value, which comes in at $68 per share. They may be slightly under it, but they're still within this fair value range. Coke is owned by 6 other super investors, and again, Buffett has the biggest holding both as a percentage of his portfolio and overall. At number 3, it's another long-term holding that's really been a flower in Warren Buffett's stock portfolio. It's American Express, making up 10.6% of the portfolio, and it's nearly a $36 billion position today. American Express is the other corporate giant Warren Buffett's owned for more than 30 years. Back when he ran his hedge fund, the Buffett Partnerships, in the early 1960s, American Express was his biggest and his best investment, making up 40% of his portfolio back then. This came as he bought shares into the company after the Salad oil scandal. Today, American Express is a $170 billion credit card and financial services giant. It trades just $5 below its 52-week highs. Familiar names join Buffett on the list of American Express shareholders. This includes Guy Spear and other Buffett followers, including Thomas Gaynor, CEO of Markel, and Chris Bloomstrand. Buffett favors these businesses with strong shareholder yields. American Express has not only grown their dividend payments since Buffett bought the company in the early 1990s, they've also bought back a ton of shares, including 3% in their last year alone. Because of these share buybacks, Buffett's original position has more than doubled in the company. Berkshire Hathaway is the biggest shareholder, owning 20.8% of American Express's shares outstanding. Their stock price has gone on a tear back since we covered the company on the channel, and it was a Select 6 stock, which you can watch here. Today, their price comes in $11 above their GF value, but it still looks like they're trading around their fair value line. For what it's worth, analysts aren't as sure as Buffett, and they're saying American Express's stock price might decline by 11%. Right now, at number 2 in Buffett's portfolio, we have Bank of America. It's an 11.5% holding that's worth $39 billion. Buffett first got the idea to invest in the company while he was taking a bubble bath. He then had to call their regular customer service line, which you or I can dial, before they forwarded him to the company's CEO, Brian Moynihan, who now is a close friend of Buffett's. Bank of America is one of Wall Street's leading banks, coming in with a $299 billion market cap, and today it's trading just $1 below its 52-week high. They're up from their 52-week lows at the end of 2023. Buffett owns 12.78% of all of Bank of America's shares outstanding. He made his first trade in the company in the second quarter of 2007. Since then, he's bought shares 12 times and sold in 5 different quarters. His most recent stake in the business began as preferred shares after having that bubble bath idea. This has a cost basis of around $26.7 billion, and he's had a gain of nearly 43%, not including dividends. One of Buffett's investing hallmarks is that he favors companies with strong shareholder yields. Bank of America fits this mold with a growing dividend for each of the last 10 years that today is a 2.6% yield, and they have a good amount of share buybacks coming in at just under 2% to complement this as well. This has been a pretty attractive investment for Buffett over this time. As an investor, Buffett is not alone in his love for Bank of America. In total, 14 super investors have positions in the company. This includes the late Charlie Munger's portfolio over at Daily Journal, even though they've been trimming recently, Li Lu, known as the Chinese Warren Buffett and a personal friend of Munger's, and Guy Spear, who along with Monish Pabrai paid and won one of the Warren Buffett lunches. Bank of America today looks like it's right around its fair value, which comes in at around $40 per share. If you want an even faster way to screen, check this out. Get investing research that actually works. Our process beats the market. It's backed by real portfolios and grounded in principles from value investors Warren Buffett and Peter Lynch. Our proprietary fair value tool quickly values companies to help you filter stocks. Join our exclusive investing community and submit requests tailored to your investing goals. The cost? Just $1.21 per day. That's less than a coffee. Yet this small investment in your financial future can lead to gains that translate to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars more in your pocket. If you need a new investing tool and aren't using this, you're already paying for it. Start a 7-day free trial now. The top holding in Warren Buffett's stock portfolio shouldn't come as a surprise. Long-term Buffett followers who keep tabs on Berkshire will know that it's Apple. Buffett's investment in Apple today is worth just shy of $154 billion, and it makes up an insane 45.2% of his portfolio. Apple is the crown jewel of Warren Buffett's stock portfolio, even though recently there was a slight trimming in the business. This may be because Todd Combs was the original investor at Berkshire Hathaway who was buying into the business. He pitched the idea to Buffett, and Buffett followed suit, plowing a major percentage of their portfolio into the business. While Buffett historically has steered away from tech companies, he's really done well with his Apple investment, understanding it as a consumer product. Buffett views Apple as a permanent Berkshire holding, similar to Coca-Cola or American Express. Right now, Apple's the second biggest company in the world with a $2.62 trillion market cap, and its stock price has been cut in the last 6 months. Sounding like a broken clock, Buffett isn't alone as a super investor holding Apple. 13 other super investors own the business, and this includes Li Lu. Interestingly, 2 of Buffett's top positions are also in his portfolio. That may be something to dig deeper on. Apple has a modest dividend that they've been growing for each of the last 12 years. The other important use of their cash flows comes through their share buybacks. Right now, because of their share buybacks, Apple still has nearly a 3% shareholder yield. This comes even as its stock price has gained so much since Buffett first invested in the company. Still, based on where its stock price is at today and the company's latest fundamentals, it looks like it's out ahead of its abilities to produce free cash flows or generate earnings. Apple's also trading well above its historical numbers here, so the company's valuation may be slightly stretched. Today, analysts are targeting a $202 price target, projecting around a 19% upside for the company. Not all of Buffett's top 10 stocks are breakaway wins. Still, he has favored these companies that have strong returns to shareholders. And it's surprising that there are companies he's held for multi-decade periods that are still such big positions for Berkshire. Ahead of Berkshire Hathaway's annual meeting, which is the first one since the death of Charlie Munger, what most surprised you about their portfolio? To me, it's remarkable that Warren Buffett's 93 years old and he's still buying and selling with lucid clarity as an investor. If you want to learn about more opportunities in the market, watch the next video and sign up for our investing tools to make requests, track more than 55 stocks, and get exclusive bonus coverage.